I'm Rachel O'Mara. I'm based in San Francisco, and I'm here today with a very exciting speaker. I'm really excited to bring Jia Jiang here from Austin, Texas. He flew in all the way just to be here with you today. And we are going to talk about how awesome rejection is. Who's excited to talk about rejection? Yeah, cool. Well, rejection means a lot of things to many people. But I think what we'll learn today is how you can really think about rejection differently. A lot of times, rejection stirs up not the nicest emotions for people. Maybe a little bit of fear in there, a little bit of anxiety, all kinds of things. And what Jia's done is really mastered this as an art form, I would say. It's actually an art form now. And what I think is really interesting is that if you shift how you think about rejection, and actually jump into the fear or lean into it and use rejection to learn about yourself, whether it's what you are afraid of or what you may not have done but want to take a risk, you learn a little bit more about yourself and you learn about what maybe is stirring that up for you, and you get an opportunity to work on yourself in personal development. So that's why I think it's pretty cool. So I actually wish all of you to have as many rejections as possible. Whether it's today or one a day, like Jia, or whatever it is. And think of it like an opportunity for yourself. And when you jump into that and think about it, it's really a way to work on yourself, really, and not tiptoe around something that you may have thought wasn't necessarily something that you were into or wanting to look into before. So embrace it, love it, and Jia's here to talk about it and what he does for it on a daily basis. And then just a quick note as well. I met Jia last summer at the World Domination Summit. Has anyone actually heard of that? Has anyone actually been to it? Good. So the World Domination Summit is hosted by Chris Guillebeau up in Portland, Oregon, and brings. Last summer we had about 300 bloggers, travelers, and just life enthusiasts gathering. And so Jia was one of our keynote speakers who got a standing ovation. He's also on a TEDx talk where he spoke about rejection in Austin. So we all loved what he had to say, so that's why I thought it was really important to bring him here. He's also working on a book about rejection, so there's no books for sale today, but it will be available in the future. So with that, I'll pass it off to Jia. Thanks.
So it was warm November afternoon. It was Sunday in Austin, Texas. A man in his 40s just sitting in his living room, just minding his own business. Actually, the Dallas Cowboy was on. And it was actually going to overtime. And then the doorbell rang. And he was like, that's odd, because the his kid and wife are away. Who could that be? And is that a salesperson? Who does sales on Sundays? Then doorbell rang again. Well, there must be some really motivated salesperson. So he got up kind of reluctantly and opened the door. Instead he saw a 6-foot-tall guy with a soccer ball, with a uniform and cleats and shin guards and all decked out. And he asked him, "Can I play soccer in your backyard?" And the guy's name is Scott. And the guy who was asking the question was me. But by now, you'll probably figure out what I was doing. But you might be asking, why? Why did you do this? What were you doing? What were you thinking? It was a love story. It was really my story. I was in a love story with rejection. When people run away from rejection, I really love rejection. For a period of 100 days, I dated rejection every day. And it ended up me like almost here with rejection. It's like we're a married couple now. But just like all good love stories, it didn't start with me embracing it. It started with me running away. It started when I was a teenager, boy growing up in Beijing, China. Some people want to ask, what I want to do in the future, what's meaning in life, and I got that figured out pretty early. I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to someday build a company like the one I'm standing in right now. I had that dream. And when I was 14, Bill Gates actually came to my hometown to speak. And it was a big deal. It's the first time he visited Beijing. And I remember he's in Peking University, and there were people hanging on trees just to listen to him talk. I had no idea what he said because I don't know English, but it sounded so good to me. It was like I thought he was the prophet. He knows everything. There he is. I have no idea what he held in his hand. I'm sure it's not an Android or iPhone. It's probably not Windows Phone either. But I was mesmerized by his story, and ever since I want to be a great entrepreneur. In fact, I wrote a letter to my family, and telling them by age 25 I will build the greatest technology company in the world, and I will buy Microsoft. Yes, I really embraced his spirit of domination. So I didn't make it up. I actually wrote that letter. I found it. And you don't have to read Chinese, know Chinese to read this. It's not good writing anyway. I marked some keywords. So, and I didn't just have a dream. I actually acted on it. When I was 16, I was given the opportunity to come to the United States to do a cultural exchange program. As idea is for me to live with a American host family, and I go to high school, then go to college later on. Funny thing is, in that letter, I talked about I want to go to Houston. Somehow I want to move to US. I want to go to Houston to achieve that dream. I have no idea why I picked Houston. It's probably because that was the year the Houston Rockets win the NBA championship, and I'm a fan, so I'm like, Houston sounds good. It's all about branding, So, but when I came here and I landed in the U.S., I went to the host family, and it's a place I did not sign up for. It's not Houston. It's not Silicon Valley. It's not L.A. or New York. It's rural Louisiana. So not sure if any of you are from there or been there. It's a town of 500 people. There are more cows than people. You get on Google Earth, you type in Simpson, Louisiana, and you zoom in and do that about 10 times, you start seeing some streets. But there's only a few streets. But the thing is, at the time, I thought this is the start of a dream. I'm just starting small. This is a small town. I'm from Beijing, 50 million. That's okay. I'm here. I'm in America now. And then, over the subsequent years, I did achieve a dream. I did. But it's a different dream. It's not the dream I thought. It's not the dream I wrote on this letter. It's called the American dream. Basically, I went to school, got a job, made money, went to a better school, got an even better job, made even more money, got a car, got a house, got a dog, got married, and everything. And one day I woke up, I'm 30 years old. I didn't achieve. I was comfortable. I was living in a situation where 99% of the people on earth would envy, but it's just not. I didn't achieve this dream. Instead, I actually chose a path of security and conformity and looking for family approval. The thing is, no one rejects you when you are 30 years old, making a lot of income at a Fortune 500 company. They think you're doing great. In fact, some people will ask me for a job, and I'm sure people here get that all the time. People think you are doing great. But I'm not saying everyone should be an entrepreneur. But for me, this is my dream, and I didn't go for it. And I really kind of run away from the risk and rejection. And in the end, I rejected myself. I couldn't stand myself anymore. It felt so shiny on the outside, so wrong on the inside. I remember it was last year, this 2012, just about 15 months ago, July 4th weekend. I was I was go to a community park, sit on the grass. There are families all around me, dogs, kids, and ice creams and laughters, and I was as depressed as I could be. My wife was at the time 9 months pregnant, and I was watching the the colorful explosion in the sky. When everyone was enjoying it, what I saw was like a mental slideshow of what's the rest of my life is gonna be. I'm gonna have more responsibilities at work. I'm gonna develop more processes, and I'm gonna be promoted and build a big 401k. And at home, we're gonna have 2 or 3 more kids. That's always our goal. 2 or 3 more kids. Our life will be in the cycle of, sending them to school, summer vacation, send them to school, and then holidays. And then we're gonna go through that cycle about 18 to 20 times, and we'll be old. And I would not make no real impact in the world. The slideshow ended with a picture of my funeral, of my eulogy. That eulogy is very touching, but I would hate to have it. I would hate it. And I cussed, and I'm not a natural cusser, But so when I cussed, my wife she's like concerned. It's like, what's going on with you? And I told her I would die full of regret someday. And she's really concerned now. It's like, what's going on? And I told her about this situation I'm in right now, this dream I had, and why I'm not pursuing it. And then I expected her to give me a lesson. I expected her to tell me that, hey, our life is great, you should be grateful, be a great husband, you're gonna be a great father in about a month or so. But actually, no. She told me, why I met you and fell in love with you is because you told me the first day that you're gonna be an entrepreneur someday. And I need that man in my life. How come you're not doing it? And if you're not happy, I'm not happy. We can have another car, another house, another great job, but you cannot have your life back. So why don't you try this? Go out and for 6 months, build your company. Just go give it a try, and do your best. 6 months. At the moment, I knew I married up. So I did. This is the day my son was born. And 4 days before that, I quit my job. And it's when I turned in my badge, and I asked my manager to take a picture. I don't think she's happy because it wasn't a good picture. But I remember that day, I walk out my office building, and this moment of joy, but also nakedness actually came to me, because before I could always blame that, hey, I have a company, I'm making money. Now, the only thing in between me and my dream is me. I have no more excuse. It's all on me now. So I hit the ground running. I did. I formed a team. It's a lot of rejection, but I use LinkedIn. I use a local network, and I built a team of 5 engineers. I'm the only non-engineer guy, but I built a team of 5 engineers, and across the country, actually across the continent. And we used the lean startup methodology, interview customers, build MVP. We did all that. We built our prototype, and a lot of people like what we're doing. 4 months into my venture, really I didn't have a lot of time. 4 months into my venture, I was presented with a major investment opportunity. And I actually thought, this is the answer to my prayers. I'm gonna get it. This is fate. This is dream come true. This is destiny. I believe in destiny. I thought, there's no way I'm not gonna get it. I even dreamed about, on 5 different occasions, I dreamed about getting that investment. And I remember vividly in those dreams, I woke up and got my name, got the investment. I called my wife, I called my parents and telling them the good news. I remember those feelings still today. But then those were dreams. The reality hit. One day I was at the restaurant celebrating a friend's birthday. She is, it's a bunch of friends. And then my phone vibrated, and I pulled it up, and I saw an email. The email is from the investor. It's a very simple letter basically said no. And I had to just walk out of that restaurant so other people wouldn't see me cry in front of them. It felt personal and impersonal at the same time. And I don't know why I was hurt that bad, because, I thought I'm mentally tough. I'm well educated. I'm actually prepared for no. I know there's a possibility for no. I prepare for it. But still, when it comes, I want it so bad, it really hurt. And I started thinking, maybe this is not meant to be. Maybe this is like, some sort of higher being telling me that this is not your destiny. You should go back to work. I'm like, if I look for a job now, I could save 2 more months, and I could just a lot of income. So I told my wife. I started talking with my wife. My wife is like this quarterback, grabbing the offensive lineman's face mask. He gave up a sack. He's like, I give you 6 months. I didn't give you 4. So you have 2 more months left. Like, you got to keep trying. Leave no regret. But I try. But I don't want to go through the whole thing and get rejected again. I learned how easy it is for investors to reject ideas. They're presented with ideas a great presentation all day long. So I'm like, more than likely I will get rejected, and I don't have enough time. But I thought, would Bill Gates say, like, get crushed like I was with a single rejection? Would Thomas Edison get crushed like that? So I started thinking, it's not just about this investment. If I want to be a better entrepreneur, if I want to be a better professional, if I go back to work, I want to be a better father and husband, I need to not be afraid like this, not be afraid of rejection. So I started searching online, and using, guess what, Google. Google is my friend. And I searched, how can I overcome the fear of rejection? I came across a website called Rejection Therapy. It's a game that we basically ask you to go out, look for rejection. The goal is to desensitize yourself from the pain of rejection. And you know what? I love the idea. I love it. I'm like, this is a great idea, one of the greatest I've heard. Let's do it. Let's blow this out. Instead of doing this just kind of half-heartedly, I'm going to build a blog. I'm going to record the process, and I'm going to do this for 100 days, every day. And so the world will keep me accountable, and I wouldn't quit halfway. So I did. This is the original blog, and I started asking for some crazy stuff to get rejected. You see, like, I was asking to play soccer in someone's backyard. That's day 6. For example, one day I saw a police officer. I flagged him down, saying, "Hey, can I drive your car?" It's my revenge for pulling a police officer over, And then one day I thought, what would it be like to fly, So I went to an airfield and I saw a pilot and said, "Hey, can I fly your plane?" He's like, "Do you have a license?" And I was like, "No." I don't know anything about flying. I just want to fly your plane. But the crazy thing happened. People start saying yeses to these requests. The 3 things I said, they say yes to all of them. And here's the proof. And now now I'm like, whoa, I'm looking for rejection, but I'm getting yeses. What do I do? I'm confused. And then there's one instance where it actually made national news, that it really encompasses the idea of looking for rejection, not getting it. And here it is.
I'm driving toward Krispy Kreme. I'm going to ask them to make me some specialized donuts. And we'll see what happens.
What kind of specialized donuts are you talking about?
I like to have you link the 5 donuts together, make them look like Olympic symbols.
And when are you looking for these?
Huh?
When?
The next 15 minutes?
Let me see what I can do.
Okay.
What do you think?
Wow. That is really good.
That's really good. Yeah. All right. So do I pay there?
Don't even worry about that one's on me.
Are you serious? Are you serious?
Extremely.
Wow.
Extremely.
Today. All right. Thank you. All right. See you. Give me a hug. Okay.
Enjoy.
All right. Thank you. See you.
You're welcome.
I would never forget that donuts. It's very sweet, but the spirit is better than it tasted. So I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. And then I posted it online, and in about a week or so, it got over 5 million views on YouTube. And the Krispy Kreme stock actually went up. I cannot prove this scientifically. It's all because of this, but I'm sure this didn't hurt. And then it gave me people saw this and they started following my blog, and they started finding what I'm doing somehow inspiring. And it turned out they started sending me thousands of emails. Like so, today I got like over 3,000 emails from people, just from strangers all over the world. And on social media, Twitter, everywhere, they send me stories about their rejection, like why they are afraid of rejection. So, for example, there is an artist in Austin. Her art is beautiful and profound, but no one noticed. She didn't tell anyone because she's like, this is my art, this is my baby. I don't want to share it with the world But when she saw this, it's like, those donuts are pretty nice, but I'm a real artist. If that video can go viral, why shouldn't I share my art with the world? And she did. And then it made national news pretty soon. She went to Washington, D.C. and has her own show. And then there's this man, he's afraid of rejection his whole life. And he said, for things like going to a restaurant, and ask for ketchup would churn his stomach. And so he sent his kids to do it. But just last year, his wife was diagnosed with cancer. And he learned, for good or for bad, in the American medical system, you have to keep pushing for things. You have to keep asking the doctors, the nurses, the hospitals to get things done. And he's like, if you have the courage to ask crazy stuff for some sort of rejection therapy, I'm trying to save my wife's life here, and why shouldn't I ask? So he did, and he thanked me with a letter. It's me getting these kind of letters every day that give me a chance to see rejection face to face. I thought this is some sort of monster that everyone's afraid of, but I started reading more on it. I started talking to people, talking to successful people, how they see rejection, how they overcome rejection. And here's what I found. Rejection is not what I thought it was. One, it's constant. Rejection is constant. And it's, some people write me emails saying, I'm afraid of rejection, but, I might want to try something, on my own. I might want to try some new idea, but let me get to a certain place in life first. Let me get that promotion. Let me get that higher in the corporate ladder somewhere so I can not get rejected as much. That's not true. In fact, the higher you go, the more you get rejected. For example, President Obama, right? He gets rejected more than anyone. Think about it. Even in the last presidential election, he won 51% of the popular vote. Right? He won. He's a big winner. He's cover of Time magazine. He's the most powerful man on earth. But he got rejected by half of his country. And think about it. This is a leader of the free world. He got rejected 61 million times. And I'm sure Google is probably the pinnacle of technology world. And I'm sure you guys get rejected. It's not like there's no place that's rejection proof. And then I learned that rejection is actually just a number. There's no mathematical way, statistical way for you to have an idea and get rejected by everyone in the world. No way. No matter how crazy how good or how bad your idea is. You will find someone who would agree with you. And it's true. And just I just learned a few days ago, J.K. Rowling, her work, Harry Potter, was rejected 12 times before the first publisher would take it. And it was because of the chairman's granddaughter. She insisted on it. It's like, this got to be on, grandpa, please. So, but think about if she quit any of the 12 times when she got rejected, we would not know who won the fight between Harry Potter and Voldemort, right? And we would know he existed. Well, he doesn't exist, but anyway, we would not be introduced with that amazing world. And there's also, you think about Abraham Lincoln. We heard the story that he got rejected 8 times before he was elected the president, right? He lost in the election, local election, state election, and national election. Then he became the president. But what I was interested was the movie Lincoln. That's last year. He almost won the Oscars. It came in second, I think. The director Steven Spielberg. He actually tried to convince Daniel Day-Lewis 3 times before the actor would say yes to be Lincoln. He got rejected 3 times. All right. This is not some up-and-comer in Hollywood. This is Steven effing Spielberg. And he can get rejected 3 times. But every time, instead of saying, how can you say no to me? He actually rewrote the script, completely rewrote the script, and went back to Daniel Day-Lewis. It's like, so does this work? It's like, oh, thank you for doing this. It's great, but for some reason I can't. He went back, rewrote it again. He did that 3 times. And in the end, the movie was a masterpiece. And lastly, rejection is nothing more than opinion. I feel the world needs many things. It needs more trees and love and sympathy. Definitely more, free drinks and bathrooms. And Google has that covered, I'm sure. But one thing we have plenty of is opinions. Everyone has them, and they're more than willing to give you for free. But somehow, when we get rejected, the rejection is really nothing more than the preferences and opinion of the rejecter. It actually says more about the person who gives the rejection than the person who receives it. It's about the fear, that how he grew up, his opinion, his preferences. It's about that person. It's a lot about that person. But somehow, we twist it. When we get rejected, we think about that as some sort of objective truth about who we are. And we take it so personally. Rejection is really like chicken. It's either yummy or yucky, depends on how you cook it. But it's a fear of rejection that really cripples us. So much so that we're more willing to reject ourselves so others wouldn't reject us. Have you had an idea that you thought is a really cool idea that you want to try it, but you thought this is kind of far-fetched, there's no way it's going to work? Or maybe you take it out, you ask for opinions. People tell you, that's a stupid idea, that's not going to work. Then you're like, okay, that's not going to work. Then maybe a few years later, you saw someone else did it, you start kicking yourself. Or another more common example, have you had a crush on a girl or see a girl or guy that you like, that you're afraid to ask that person out because you don't want to get rejected? I heard people writing me this email a lot. They're like, I know this girl, and I just, oh my gosh, I'm leaving school in about 2 months. What do I do? I feel like I'm not gonna see her again afterward. But and then you don't do it, and you thought about what's it gonna like. You always fantasize, oh, what is it like if my life I spent with that person? Actually, I had these thoughts. It's not other people. Sometimes I have those thoughts as well. But the thing is, when whatever happens, you have to leave no regret. You have to keep asking for things so you don't get rejected. So you don't leave regret saying, would that ever happen? I've never heard of one person who actually say, I regret trying something. I regret asking someone out. I regret making this initiative, making that conversation. I haven't heard it. So I learned a lot about rejection things, business, communication, sales through my rejection therapy for 100 days. It's actually amazing the body of knowledge I ran into, because I have a camera. I go into a stranger. I talk to a stranger and trying to ask him something crazy. I started learning. It's like, wow, actually, if I do this, and I started analyzing what the other people's reaction. I found, actually, you can say things, you can act a certain way, and get people to say yes to you. I'm going to write this in the book. What I learned from 100 Days of Rejection. I'll just share one thing. For example, we thought about sales, right? We thought about sales is about maybe trying to convince other people, trying to do something, trying to buy something. We watch movie like Glenn Gray, Glenn Ross, right? There's always be closing, the rah-rah talk. Actually, I found that to be the opposite of my experience. When I come in, I'm trying to be closing something, trying to convince someone to do something, I started feeling anxious. I started trying to analyze the reaction. I started trying to say things I didn't mean. I started becoming who I'm not. So instead of actually trying to convince someone, I learned I try to make a good argument, make a good case. They sound like pretty similar. They're actually very different, because the metrics, one is on the other person. Do you get a yes or no? The other one is for myself. I can totally control what I say. I can totally control my body posture. I control my confidence. I cannot control that person say yes or no, because that's his preference and opinion. But I found out if I focus on who I am and what I do, I'm liberated by other people's opinion. I'm liberated by this desire to get a yes. And it turned out I would get more yeses. Like, in this 100 days, I got like almost 50% yes, with no matter how crazy I went. This is just one small things I learned, and there are a lot more. But I'm actually started to work with some professionals and sales professionals and people in customer service about how actually to turn this into helping them to not be afraid of rejection, how to be a better salesperson. But the most important thing I learned are just two words: just ask. Just ask. Remember I told you I was asked the pilot to fly his plane? When I think about flying, I think about going to the airport and taking off my belt and make sure my pants don't drop, and I walk through that cancer-inducing bone scanner and charging my phone on the dirty carpet. That's what I think about flying. But that day, I had the best flight of my life. I've never forget it. For a minute, I was like 2 feet above the cornfield. I was just skimming through. I felt like I was a seagull. I was looking for fish above the ocean. And then the next minute, I was like 1,000 feet into air. I felt like an eagle. And all this time, I just kept looking back and thought, wow, what if I didn't ask? What if I wasn't crazy that day and asked someone to fly someone's plane when I have no permit and nothing? I would have none of this. Then I thought about my life. What if I didn't ask? Or people who write me emails, what if they didn't ask? Companies might not be built, or they might be quit prematurely. Art might not be shared and appreciated by the world. And life-saving treatment might be delayed or not even happen. When we think about rejection, we think about it as something so negative, so terrifying. So by actively avoiding that rejection, so by not asking, we're avoiding a negative feeling, and positive, right? That's actually a lie. That's a lie that people say to themselves every day. I say that to myself too. But I learned that if I'm not going out there and getting rejected on a daily basis, I'm actually rejecting myself. And as a result, I'm getting ignored by the world. I might get rejected, I might get accepted. I won't let someone else do it, not myself. As a result, I would not let the world ignore me. So, what's next for me? This 100 Days of Rejection, I've completed it. I am actually writing a book. I just not too long ago I got a book deal It will come out in 2015. But that's actually not the most important. Like writing a book, being an inspirational speaker, keynote speaker. That's actually just sounds good. But what I really want to do is, when I think about rejection, now I know what rejection is. I started thinking about the rejection in history. And I found that the people who made the most impact in the world, in its history, are the people who get rejected, sometimes violently. We think about Mahatma Gandhi, Martin Luther King Jr., Nelson Mandela, even Jesus Christ. They met the most violent and gruesome rejection in the world, but in turn, they made history. They changed history. And I want to do that as well. Remember this? I wrote this letter. I said I want to conquer the world and be like the next Bill Gates. Actually, I don't want to conquer the world anymore. I want to make it better. I want to find a new world, in this world where no one is afraid of rejection. I want to see what it's like. I want to see, I have this curiosity, I want to see how many more lives will be fulfilled. I want to see how many more ideas will be realized, and how many love stories will be written. I want to see that world. Being an entrepreneur, it's not about making a boatload of money or having a cool idea. It's about finding a need and developing a solution for that need. And by accident, I found one of the biggest needs in the world, which is we're afraid of rejection. And I want to find a solution for it. Now, I'm at Google. This is where the smartest people are. And I'm going to give you 2 challenges. One is, I will write a book, and I'll continue blogging, I'll be a speaker. But you know what? Deep down, I'm a technology guy. That's why I quit my job before I want to build the greatest technology company. I want to ask you for ideas. How can I use technology to develop solutions so people are not afraid of rejection? It's not just let's do a game, let's do an app. It's actually what are the goals? How can I actually make that happen? How can I encourage people? And 2, if you have friends or loved ones or family members who's also afraid of rejection, share my story with them. Just tell them that this guy actually went so scared of rejection, he went out there for 100 days. In the end, he changed his life. Share the story with them and see how they react. And it's going to help. It's going to help. If it doesn't help, buy them a box of donuts. It will always help. All right, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I guess I have a few minutes to do a quick Q&A. So if you have any questions, let me know. Go ahead. Right, how do I record? I own an iPhone. the thing about iPhone is it's small, right? So I hang it on my chest, and I don't actively hide it. I just hang it right there, and so most people would think it was just an iPhone that I would listen to music to, but actually, when they ask me, I always tell them. So, why did I try to be an entrepreneur in Beijing? Do you know what Beijing was like in 1995? It's different from Silicon Valley, but a lot has changed. But I learned where Bill Gates is. And actually, I thought, I might knock on his door and be his partner or something. But America has this, if you want to be a technology entrepreneur, you have this dream of coming to the U.S. and making that happen. So that's why I want to come here. So, go ahead. Yeah. So the question is, if I get rejected, most of the things I've done are not going to be life-changing things. They're going to be rather, if it didn't happen, it's okay, right? Well, first of all, it's hard to have life-changing rejections for 100 of them. But I see this as in practicing basketball. So when the games are won and lost not on the court when there are 20,000 people watching. It's in the dark gyms where you are practicing free throws. And I see this. I see the courage. And I see the gumption to ask these questions, not to be afraid. It's almost like a muscle. You have to keep practicing. So I use these type of things to practice myself. And you can try some of them. Like these are the things, some of them are just frightening. Like the small things, am I gonna lose my life after this? No, it's not. But before you do it, it's actually frightening. But gradually I found out toward the end, I'm not afraid of asking anything. Ask anyone anything, I'm not afraid. But at the beginning, I was a different person. So I see this as a practice. I see this as a course for myself to develop more courage. So, go ahead. That's actually a very good observation. The thing is, the question is, what about a sports analogy, right? In baseball, you take a swing, you might miss, you might get struck out, right? In basketball, sometimes you take shots or you pass. Like when do you pass? When do you take a shot? Is that the question? So I feel like instead of worrying about making shots, instead of worrying about strikeouts, I worry about my form. I worry about my mentality. I worry about the posture when I stand up to play. I worry about making the best decision when the ball comes to me. And in basketball, I worry about in that situation, should I shoot or should I pass? So it's not about it's not about getting that score. That's not my metrics. I worry about making the right decision. And somehow this rejection therapy thing, after I've done this for 100 days, I started making decisions a lot more clear. And I know instead of just, because in the past, when you were afraid, when you were like wanting to win so bad, you want to get a yes so bad, you started it does cloud your mind. You started trying to things that you didn't mean. But now I learned that I actually don't care about yes or no. I care about making the right decision. So I think that's how I would answer that sports analogy. Go ahead. Absolutely. The comment is I should be talking about doing this more on a more academic approach, right? Doing more research and experiments and with test groups and find the right sample size and start experimenting to see how it would work. Actually, yeah, that's in my plan. A couple of things. One is, the most thing that I know is my story. I know this from firsthand. I know the impact it made on me. And I know the impact it made on the people who actually go out and they saw what I'm doing, they start trying this, and they came back to me to say this is amazing. That's a lot of anecdotal evidence, and that's actually very strong evidence. I see this in the mirror every day. But as you're mentioning, as someone who wants to develop a technology, this is highly crucial to me to someday to actually be able to do the research, be able to have the data to back it up as well. So it's not just anecdotal. Here and there. So the question is, how do I, when I get rejected, how do I repair myself? One is I see rejection differently now. Like I used to think equate rejection with a failure, and I used to equip rejection as something that says bad about me. But now, because of how I see rejection differently, I get rejection and I get it. I almost laugh at it, almost like celebrate it, just because. It says more about that person than me. In fact, I found that rejection actually is a lot of way to qualify that person. Do I want to do business with that person? My goal, I found, is not trying to convince someone who doesn't like me, doesn't like my stuff. My goal is to find a person who is open to my idea, and then to try that. So. And I don't get hurt anymore because of how I see rejection. And also, I start trying to celebrate it. And here and there, go ahead. So the question is what do I do with my kids, with rejection, right? So that's a great question because the rejection is so relevant in any area. Parenting is a huge area. One, right? You don't want to get rejected by your kid, but you want to have your kid to learn how to deal with rejection. Because I feel like in modern society, especially rather affluent, upper middle class or middle class, that we started our goal is we try to make the kids feel good. That's our only goal, trying to feed him and make them happy. I think that's important, but also not one very highly important thing for being a parent. What I learned from my experiences, I actually need to expand his comfort level. I need to tell him that it's okay to get no. Actually, why don't you go out and keep trying and getting no's? And I wish I've done this when I was 8 instead of when I was 30. So, I hope that's your question. Yeah, I do. Because the whole thing is to look for rejection by the most by ridiculous request. But when I get there, I try my best to negotiate. And I've developed a body of language. There's a couple of things I learned. For example, when someone says no to you, instead of turning around, instead of just looking for a place to hide, you actually start a conversation. You ask why. Why would you say no to that? And sometimes the why is a lot more important than the what. If you can find out the reason, and if you started negotiating, started trying to tackle the reason, his fear, it turned out like more than likely they would come back and say yes. And sometimes they think, like you are crazy, like asking this. That's why they say no to this. But then when you start talking, it's like, oh, this guy looks normal. He's very respectable. Let's talk about this. So it happens a lot. And also there are things like when someone says no to you, instead of just one of the ways you can actually provide alternatives. Ask them, hey, what about this? If you can do this, what about that? And then what I learned is sometimes when the people started collaborating with you, instead of like negotiating, instead of sitting across table, if you sit on the same side and trying to tackle a problem, the solution is actually better than what you thought you would get. Because that person has the expertise and he has a resource that you need. So, all right, go ahead. So the question is, as a Chinese American, like how culturally does that have any impact on me? So this is a very deep question. I actually got this question a lot with especially people international like immigrants, first generation immigrants, or even second generation. They send me letters saying, "Wow, what you're doing is great," but actually, what's more awesome is you're actually talking to white people and black people and everyone, and to me that's actually to a lot deeper issue, on culture difference, because someone wrote me a letter saying, I'm afraid to talk to people that's not my race because my mom told me don't ever talk to a black guy or a white guy because they have guns. I literally heard this. And that sounds laughable, right? But when you're told like this in the beginning, when you're young, it does have an influence of how you behave in the future, even subconsciously. Even now you think it's laughable. Even your colleagues are people from different race and culture. So what I found is, deep down, I can't believe how similar we are. Instead of, yes, people look different. Yes, they have different languages. Yes, they're from different places. But deep down, we have the same fear, we have the same aspiration, which we just want to do better. Right? We want to do better. We're kind. So I started looking past the race. I started looking past the culture. Actually, it never started with me looking at people who are different. I just see people as human beings. And in that way, the connection is a lot stronger than I thought. So, great point. So the question is, he wants to think about things in the other side. It hurts to get rejected, but what about rejecting others? And I found how unwilling people are to reject you. Like I found firsthand, because people are genuinely nice. It's hard to say no. And then I learned in a few instances where someone say no to me, but the way they said it make me a fan of them. And this has a big implication in customer service, because in customer service, you got to say no all the time. Like you can't just say yes to every request. But how do you say no and improve your brand? That's very important. So a couple things. When you say, instead of saying no, make it upfront. We can't do this, and tell them why you cannot do this, and be very honest. We can't do this because of here are the reasons, but here is how you can get to a yes. There are alternatives, and there are paths to a yes. Here's what you can do. Now you put the ball into the other person's court, and it's on him to actually fulfill those requirements to get a yes. So it is really tough. It is tough to give a no sometimes, but if you learn how to do it, you can do it and still make people like you. No, and because when I do it, I'm very respectful, and I don't expect a yes. And I don't come in and I would say, I will make you feel bad if you say no to me. This is what I learned very early, is when I don't want to put people in a situation where they would feel bad saying no to me. I want to make it like, okay, it's okay to say no. It's really okay to say no. I'm always having this playful, spirit when I do this. And a lot of cases, I actually become friends with these people who I'm strangers I met. And they're like, some of them are like, for example, Jackie from Krispy Kreme who did this. I talked to her many times after this. And she was grateful that I would ask this kind of question because it's like, my job is boring. Like, I would love to be challenged like this. Just come on out. I hope everyone give me tell me to make something good. Yeah, the most common reason fear of rejection is they take it very personally. It's very, it sounds very easy. If we're talking about research, the fear of rejection goes way back to our hunter-gathering states, where you get rejected by your tribe, or you're out, and you cannot survive on your own, right? So, and that fear stayed with us for over the centuries, over the millenniums, and when you hear no, actually the people that study in their brain and their both psychological and physiological, they find out when you get a no, the pain is the same type of pain that you would get if you get kicked kicked somewhere or get hit somewhere. So it's psychological, but the physical reaction is the same as physical. Okay, all right, thank you.